Catholic worship on Thursday at 9:30, and the Episcopal worship meeting is at 10:15, and then the second Thursday of the month, the Presbyterian Church has a worship service at 11 o'clock. So those are all the different worship experiences that we can have here at Village on the Isle. And we have support groups. We have a visually challenged support group. We have a support group for Living Through Loss. We have a friendship support group. And then we just started a new support group for those that are in caring relationships that need assistance with support in their caring relationships. So that's a very important part of our role here at Village on the Isle, to support each other. And I'm amazed at all the people that do support each other when we go through difficult things. There are people around, and what a great gift we have that. For the advancement part of my job, some of you know, and some of you picked up those little brochures that I handed out this weekend. I hope that you look at it carefully and don't put it in garbage, but think about the importance of giving back. Some people might say, why? My response is, why not? Because giving to Village on the Isle and to the foundation, you're giving back to the community, and what a great and important part of our role to do that. There's not only the foundation to give to, there are other areas to give to, the gratuitary fund, the grant fund, and those are very important parts of our role here at Village on the Isle. Final thing, very important thing, Festival of Lights is happening on December 2nd. So, the Tuesday of December 2nd, and you'll have to figure that out. If you've not been here for one of the Festival of Lights, it's a highlight of the year for me, anyway. So, I'm done. What's that? Where is it going to be? You'll figure it out.
Circle Drive.
Circle Drive, thank you. Deb is up now.
Okay, I'll make this brief. You're all welcome to come to our topping off event on September 29th. Please plan on joining our depositors and our construction team as we celebrate this very exciting milestone. We have 178 people on our wait list, and it continues to grow. We're maintaining contact with them through regular events and phone calls, as well as further meetings and presentations to keep their interest building. We also have mailers scheduled. One is going to hit tomorrow, and several lunch and learn events planned, so the interest and excitement in Village on the Isle continues to grow. We have deposits on 50 apartments in the expansion, so we have 4 available. Ingrid sold 1 last week. Initially, we were 100% sold for the expansion, but a couple people moved into existing apartments and a couple moved up north. There's a lot of curiosity in the Venice community about our expansion as depositors describe their new apartments and how excited they are about moving in. There really is a lot of excitement amongst the depositors about moving in. Several depositors have asked for more information to pass along to their friends, so we're happy to provide that, but it's nice to kind of have that buzz going out there. Finally, we are at 99% occupied and reserved in our existing inventory. Currently, we have no apartments to sell. It's a team effort, most definitely. Karen is up next.
Okay, I'm going to go really quick. I got the message. Okay, so quickly on the Resident Life team, we'll talk about the few things we got done this summer, because we certainly were very active this summer. Hold on. So there they are. That was the Mother's Day tea. That was a really nice time. Okay. Maybe. All right. So we brought back a couple of events that we've had previously that were a hit. As we know that, can you hit it again? Although everyone knows what that is. We had, back by popular demand, the luau. So we brought that back. For those of you that have lived here for a while, we did that for many years, and then we actually substituted it with the Kentucky Derby, which of course has been a huge hit. But we brought back the luau this year, where we plan to keep it moving forward, and that was a really nice time. We don't have pictures of the talent show because we have that video that I'm sure you have all seen, which was absolutely fabulous. So that was fun to have over the summer. And just a couple things that went on. We went to the baseball game, which we always do. We had entertainment by Mike Archer, which was a new entertainer that everybody loved. We hope to bring him back the end of this year. We had 4th of July pool party that ended up inside, but I think we had a really nice time. We were able to pull it off, and then everybody loved the Mosey Museum outing that we had. And just an update on Jesse's Toy Box, and so that is the toys that you've all collected. You've actually donated over 225 toys to the kids in our community, so hats off to everybody. Thank you so much. They've come 4 times for the box, so the box is empty now, so we got to keep filling. The plan will be for 4th quarter over the Christmas holiday season. We'll have the staff, we'll bring it to the staff because they want to do something to give back to the community, but we'll do it year round. I think it's been very popular and it really serves an outstanding purpose. And a couple of events next Friday night. We have our volunteer appreciation gathering, which many of you will be joining us for that. That was invitation only, but almost everybody will be there. Topping out party, which I think Beth mentioned already, is on the 29th. Rob, you forgot your pet blessing. We are going to bring that back. It was really popular last year. We'll have it at Circle Drive. And then Oktoberfest. Instead of doing Halloween, we're going to do a fall festival, Oktoberfest, out on Circle Drive on the 23rd of October. All right, and there's the team that makes it all happen. So Helen and Anna, there they are. All right, now next we're going to switch to the HR stuff. Oh, that's the finale. You guys all know about that. It's okay. So a couple quick updates I always do for Town Hall. Go ahead. So we're actually, our total staff is up by about 11 or 12 from the last 2 or 3 quarters I've reported. It was very noticeable, so that's awesome news. What's interesting is that full-time, part-time have actually remained relatively flat, and we see it more in our seasonal and our PRN status changes. So again, helping out with ebbs and flows. We're hovering around 9 positions, a little bit lower than normal. We've onboarded 40 staff members since January, so busy. And I just think this is interesting to note that we know that our #1 referral, similar to residents for staff, is our own staff. But we did the math on it, which takes a little bit of work. It's nothing automated. 60% of our hires come from our own staff members. So I thought that was pretty interesting to know. And then we're at the same retention rate. We're hovering around 87%. So that converts obviously to a 13% turnover. So we had our milestone lunch to honor those folks that are hitting a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 year on July 17th. We've enhanced the grant program to open it up to pre-K reimbursement for staff for ages 2 to 4 years old. So that's a great retention initiative. Thank you, residents. We've put together a interdepartmental task force to address our employee survey. So that's ongoing right now, and that's to make improvements in the business related actually to communication. And then another highlight I haven't talked about, but First Stop Health is our telemedicine benefit that Voti pays for 100% for our staff. And we have an overutilization on a positive perspective. So I thought this was great to see. Our return on investment as a business is over 400% utilization. So it's definitely utilized and worth it for our staff. And the savings for them is over $10,000. So again, I thought that was something to highlight. And then thank you, residents, for the staff appreciation luncheon. Huge hit. I think you all enjoyed it. Now, we loved it, but I know you had fun doing it, and we say thank you. It was very much appreciated by all of our staff. So next up is Holly Guerrero, Health and Wellness. Did anyone time me? 3 minutes? 3 minutes with 2 departments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will be quick. I wanted to just remind everybody about the vaccination clinic that's on the 25th of this month from 10 to 3 right here. And thank you all for getting those enrollment forms back to us. Hedges Pharmacy has picked them up. Now, if you did not get your form back, know that you can still drop it off to us And if worst case scenario, you haven't done it and you want to still have the vaccine on the 25th, you can come. We'll have enrollment forms and you won't be turned away, I promise. We are offering several vaccines, and again, they are optional, and we ask that you ask your primary care physician about them. They are safe from a pharmacy point of view to get them all at once, but we do know that some physicians do not want you to have them all at once, and that's fine. You just want to check with your physician. You are receiving, if you signed up, the COVID vaccine booster is going to be the Pfizer vaccine. They are releasing that vaccine on the 18th, and you do not need a prescription here when you receive it. I know that there's been a lot of news out there about needing a prescription. Now, but if you've had COVID recently, you cannot get that vaccine right now. The flu vaccine is going to be certainly for the high dose one for our seniors, so that's being offered. We're also offering the pneumococcal and the RSV. We do ask, though, that you check your insurance because they're not free. Most times the flu and the COVID will be covered, but there is usually a copay with definitely the RSV and the pneumococcal, so you don't want to be shocked by that. So you want to check that if that's one of the ones that you have checked. So we will be doing that. You can come at any time between 10 and 3. We're going to do a number system, so we'll be very organized with the help of Resident Life, and that went very well last year. So any questions, certainly can see us. We'll also want you to know that we are offering it to our staff as well for the flu. We will have several staff members as well that will be coming in to receive their flu vaccine that day as well. So one other thing is that we are partnering now with the Neuro Challenge Foundation, which specializes in Parkinson's. And one of the things that we're going to be bringing to Bodie is presentations and education and resources to all of you, because there's been an interest and you've been asking us for information about Parkinson's. So we do have some presentations that will be set up and looking at some support groups as well. Thank you. And next is James Marshall.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? So, like Holly said, I'm James Marshall. I'm the Director of Health Services. And fun fact, I've actually been here 5 years. So time flies when you're having fun. I have a few gray hairs in my beard, but we'll talk about that later. Just a few quick updates. Over at the Health Center, our current census is 51 occupied rooms with 11 short-term care, so Medicare patients. That equates to a little bit about over 91% occupied, and our assisted living did see a little bit of a dip. We're currently at 46 rooms occupied, 72% is what that correlates to. The Health Center did recently just complete the Joint Commission Accreditation Survey, so that is, I think they look at every corner, nook, cranny, piece of equipment that we have in there, so we did get reaccredited for the second time in a row, which was a huge accomplishment for the team over there. Speaking of surveys, we have another survey coming up. Every year, our good friends, the state of Florida, the Agency for Healthcare Administration, comes in. So last time we were surveyed was in May. We are anticipating them at any given day now, so we're preparing for that. I did want to take a moment. How many of you guys went to the carnival that John Santella hosted? Wasn't that incredible? Yeah. So I asked John, I pulled him aside, he had over 80 attendees, so the lofts, memory care, and skilled nursing, and he just, every year it gets better and better. So I wanted to give you guys a special thank you for what you do for our residents. In tandem with that, the volunteers, we currently have 28 of you guys that are selflessly giving your time and serving our residents over in the Health Center, memory care, and lofts. And John and myself and the entire team cannot thank you enough. So truly, truly thank you for that. And last but not least, the comprehensive emergency management plan that we have to get approved every year through Sarasota County. That was completed, verified, and we are officially ready for hurricane season, if anyone knows when that is. I think it's coming up. Okay, all right. That's all I have. Thank you guys for your time, and next up is Frank Buttry.
Hello, everybody. So I only get 1 minute now because they took too long. So, a couple things. Security. We ask that residents, a lot of residents give up their driver's license or give up their vehicle. To please let Josh know if you do that, so that we can move that wait list a little quicker and get somebody else in that spot. For everyone's safety, we ask that not to let anyone into the doors, the main doors. Let them use the Door King system that's there to call the resident they're there to visit. So we're just not letting anyone in, or we can ask them to come over to the lofts and check in at security, okay? We're all nice and we all want to do the right thing, but that's probably the safest thing to do. So transportation, there's a lot of new residents here, so we do offer after-hours transportation. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that we have after-hours transportation that we use a third party to come and get you from the hospital if you've had a late medical procedure or you're getting released from the hospital. Sometimes it takes a little longer because some of these 24-hour companies are no longer 24 hours anymore. So it does take a little long, but we will, if you're within 15 miles or on the island, it is free, no charge to you whatsoever. Anything over 15 miles will be added to your monthly statement. All they have to do is call the main number, and security will go ahead and get that outsourced. So the other thing in transportation, did anybody happen to see the nice new white and electric Cadillac out front today? It's beautiful, isn't it? I believe Judy was taking a few of the lost residents in there today. So we just actually we got it this week, so it's brand new. And it is green, it's all electric. We've recently replaced the hurricane damaged viburnums with some nice pitch apple. I know everybody saw them. I was out there today with Hazeltine. They're growing like crazy. I mean, with all this rain we're getting, and they know to not trim them. They're going to let them grow and create that hedge that should be out there. There were some other damaged shrubs from the hurricane, which we're in the process of replacing now. You probably noticed they've removed the old ones, and we're about to get some new viburnums and cocoa plums placed in there. Facilities, I'm sure you guys have seen the plumbers on the first floor of Matthew Hall and Trinity Hall. We've had the plumbers out, and they have jetted the lines, the main drain lines, to hopefully alleviate a lot of the blockages that we've had in the past. So for renovations, we're currently renovating 9 units, 5 in Matthew Hall, 3 in Trinity Hall, and 1 in the cottage. So we have 182 combined units between Matthew Hall and Trinity Hall, and of those 182, 155 have been completely renovated. So the breakdown is there's 18 left in Matthew Hall and 9 left in Trinity Hall. So we're getting very close. And Blue Stream fiber installation currently. And the next item is Blue Stream fiber installation is currently being completed in Trinity Hall, and then they're starting to do the pre-installation in Matthew Hall as of today. The Trinity Hall back entrance is still on schedule and should be started sometime in mid to late October. The lost fourth floor renovation, and I think I might have said this at a fireside chat. If you haven't seen it, please get up there and take a look. It's absolutely beautiful up there. There's still a few items left. They have a few doors that they're waiting on, along with some touch-up paint. But other than that, it looks really, really good. Campus expansion. So as you can see, they're starting on the Emerald Islands and Emerald Tides. They're starting to place the roofs up. They're doing interior framing already for the units. The windows have been going in. I don't know if anybody saw that. They're already, I believe, on the 3rd floor with windows. And for the Wellness Center, the truss installation, I'm sure you saw the trusses up there, and they have already installed the pool equipment. So we're moving along very quickly. Next up, our CFO, Kathy Rogers.
Okay, so this is like the fastest town hall I've ever been in. So So you guys tell me, does this one work better or does this one work better? This one? Okay. All right, I'm going to try to keep this nice and close and speak nice and slow. I know that's my downfall. Oh, it is working. Okay. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kathy Rogers. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. And Doug and I were chuckling up here because I'm actually in my 14th year at Village on the Isle, which, I mean, just unbelievable how fast time flies, but it seems like the last 5 years have been the most challenging. And that's when James started. And so Doug and I had the same thought there, but again, honestly, it feels like it started last year, and I'm just so grateful that I found this organization and that you guys all found me, because it's just been an amazing journey for me, personally, and then professionally, and then here as an organization. So we've come a long way in the last 14 years. So just to talk about our financial services and performance, so we're going to talk about financials from July 31st. Those are our last board-approved financials. We're actually going to get into some of our cash reserves, the standard CPI discussion, but I'm going to talk about the budget for 2026 as well, and where we stand, and kind of where we've fallen out for a potential rate increase for next year. I also have Bluestream support in progress in my notes, and I just want to pause because I know Frank talked about the construction side of things and the implementation, but just some great feedback from our resident council president about, for those of us that have been installed and, is it successful? And then maybe some hiccups that we've seen since a successful install. And so I just want to, instead of putting out another memo, I thought it was best just to kind of approach it here in this platform, just to say, if you did have an installation and everything has been successful, you feel that, you've received all of the, proper research, documentation, education on how to use your systems, great. But if you've had a hiccup since then, please reach out to me or Michael Sowen, because we wanted to see if there's just some little nuancy things that are taking place in the system. We did have some feedback about casting. So if anyone is casting their phone or mirroring their phone, we're just trying to work through some of the issues with that. It was working successfully, and now we're having, sounds like in actual apartments themselves. If I'm speaking Greek, great, just ignore me. If this is something that you're interested in, I think Michael and I talked about it this morning and maybe some potential issues. And so we're going to work through those to make that as easy as possible for you. And then the second thing in regards to the implementation is the support and service from here on out. So I heard this morning that when someone called Bluestream to add a package, the sports package, etc., that they said you have to come through Village. And so that's specific between you and Bluestream. We're going to make sure that's corrected. But if you decide to change something on your account, whether you remove a sports package or you want to upgrade, you do have to call them and then negotiate with them, because that billing comes from them directly. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. But we basically have no access to that, and we would really be doing you a disservice if we try to get involved. Okay? But we're getting there, and I'm so excited. So 4 weeks from now, I can't wait to stand up here and not feel that we're getting daggers at us. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And then just lastly, the Financial Communications Committee. So we traditionally meet on a quarterly basis. We met a few weeks ago, a little bit late for the summer. But I will be kind of setting that up in the next 3 weeks after our next board meeting to talk about where we stand through August. So if you're interested and you want to know more in detail about Bodie's financials, and we kind of cover a whole range of things, please reach out to me. I'll add you to that group. It's about an hour meeting, and just a great way to just learn more about us, and then share it if you want to with your floors, etc. All right, so talk about where you stand through July 31st. So we're having a great income statement year, and so I will say on the resident healthcare service side, James did mention that we've seen some blip in healthcare occupancy, and you're seeing that affected here. And so we actually have not met budget and are falling behind about $130,000 for the year. But good news, as we work through some of those things, our investments have taken off. And I can't take any credit for that whatsoever, because when we budgeted for 2025, we did not take into consideration the project funds. So we didn't know if we were going to close in 24 on this new expansion or 25. And it was late in the year. It was in December when we closed on the Series 2024 bonds, but we get to earn interest on those project funds. We can't use those operationally here, to offset potential monthly service increases, It does go back into the project. And so those things are accounted for to pay for future interest expense, but it does get captured in our income statement. And so thankfully for that, we have a great, robust investment year because none of that was budgeted for 2025. Amortization of our entrance fees, we see a very positive performance to budget, and ultimately, this is a non-cash item. And so this is where I love to do the resident finance committee meetings to talk more about the accounting side. But every contract that we have here in the organization, the IRS makes us, or another GAAP reporting, make us take that into income over your life expectancy. So everyone here has a different life expectancy based on those actuarial tables, and that's how we amortize that income in. When we have a resident that passes away before that life expectancy, we see kind of like a windfall of that contract coming in. And so we did have, honestly, it was actually the month of July itself, we've had some residents not spend as much time here and get to move on to that eternal grateful place. And so we see the windfall for July 31st. So overall, we've seen about 3.5 million over our budgeted revenues. And on the expense side, and we do also have some positives. And so on the operational expense, this is really, really high level, but we've seen a lot of savings from actual benefit renewals. So we had a tough healthcare renewal for our employees, but we've seen a great pickup in our workers' compensation. The state kind of controls that rate, and then we get to control that rate with our modification and how well we have a safety program. And so I don't even want to brag about this because we've had years where you just kind of have those little snake bites that you don't plan for. Like Michael tripping over a cord, thank you for that saving workers' comp claim for us. But we've done a great job, and there's a great safety committee, and it's just really awareness amongst all of our team members about how to properly have a safe workplace. We also saw a great improvement in our property insurance renewal. So we had budgeted for a potential 10% increase based on what we've seen year over year. We had a 15% savings this year with that renewal, and not just renewal savings on the premium, but we have a much better deductible moving forward. And we hope that constantly just, we see that nice sliding scale back to where we were. I don't know if we'll ever be where we were, but just as we kind of see some of these things shake out after that cyclical piece of insurance claims. I'm not going to bring up, I don't want to say the word, I'm not going to say what creates those claims, but we're just grateful to see that kind of steady out. And then depreciation and amortization, that's kind of a budgeted number, until we get to the end of the year, and so that's usually pretty close. So overall, we've seen about $500,000 in positive expense to budget, and then when we collectively see that, we're just about $4 million favorable to budget for 2025. Financial ratios, so very strong still, 448 days cash on hand for the organization. And we talk about this a lot from all different aspects, but 448 days really means nothing unless you understand the context behind it. And so on average, for us to operate each day here at Village on the Isle, it's about $80,000. So that 448 days cash on hand is substantial for us based on our unrestricted investments. Our budget was 393 days, and we do have a bond covenant to maintain at least 150 days. Debt service coverage ratio, how many times we can cover our debt service. Based on that calculation, I actually put the lower of the two numbers, so 2.2 times to be able to cover our current debt service. And then our net operating margin. So with that $4 million positive, we're about 8% on resident monthly service fees. And then our operating ratio, excellent because of all that interest income below 100% at 90%, which is wonderful for us. So our cash reserves, we're going to see this number drop a little bit here at the bottom. So I'm not going to go into each specifics, but our project fund now has been added to this, and we're obviously spending down those funds as those construction draws take place. And so we're about 16 million into that project draw, so we're going to slowly see those reserves decrease, as well as the interest that's capitalized or funded during this period that was paid out actually July 1. And so we see those numbers slowly decreasing over time. Everything else has kind of either increased or remained the same, based on some of our statutory requirements. All right, consumer price index. Oh, we're back to 2.3%. That wherever that target that was that we were all trying to hit. But I think we're all still kind of feeling the effects of what that inflationary impact is for each one of us and where that shows up. For our community, I will tell you, energy right now is hitting us pretty hard, especially in gas. That 10% increase. Motor fuel is great because it's down, but it's such a small piece of our budget. And then overall food index, I'm going to tell you, that's probably one of the hardest for us to manage through because it is just so quickly up and down. And poor Mark and trying to manage through that based on our menus when they set those each cycle. And then obviously our medical care, we're still seeing that up, over 3% and services up 4%. The unemployment rate. So this was unusual. Local unemployment in Sarasota is usually below the state level. And so we actually saw this creep up for July. So we're up for local unemployment at 4.4%, which is great. And Karen, as a result, we're starting to see ourselves almost fully staffed. And so you kind of see these levels showing, or at least you're going to see the relationship between those. And state unemployment actually up a little bit too at 3.7%. All right. So for 2026, which is maybe what everyone's holding out for, so doing our best this year to keep our monthly service fees in check and in that historical range. And so for 2026, we're projecting a 3% increase in monthly service fees amongst all levels of care. And so, some people say, great, that's wonderful. Others are like, oh, why can't it be lower? And so really doing our job, we were at 5%, 4%, 4%, 3.5%, and now we're back down to that 3% range. Based on everything that we capture, I will tell you the biggest impact to our budget for next year is going to be technology and this infrastructure change that we're going through this year. Otherwise, about 50% of our budget always goes to staff wages. And, in order for us to maintain and retain our staff in that competitive edge and employer of choice, we traditionally budget for a 3% merit increase for those staff members. So that alone is always going to push our budget and kind of keep that range at about that 3% mark, unless we see some huge windfall in a property insurance savings. The one thing I do want to state is that with this campus expansion next year, all of these numbers are based on existing operations. We did not pull in the campus expansion for next year, knowing that we might start receiving occupancy with all of our new residents in July. That's going to be kind of a ramp-up phase, but there's going to be a lot of ramp-up expenses with that as well. So we kind of held those out for next year to try to manage through this until we can really see the benefits and the impact of that come 2027. So, just so I think I'm going to get a lot of questions when it comes to that, but that's kind of the approach that we took for this year's budget. And then overall, you can kind of see some details. But this is a statute requirement. And so any rate increase over CPI is what's listed in statute, that I have to share with you how it impacts us moving forward by department. And so these are the main drivers for that for next year. All right, and so just a fun few pictures. So unfortunately, last weekend I had to go to New Jersey for a funeral for a family member that was very unexpected. And I have been home to Jersey in a very, very, very long time. Well, that's not true. My brother had a 50th birthday last year, but it was a flash. So I got to go back to the Jersey Shore, to the beach, where I'm from. This is Cape May, New Jersey. Yeah, yep. And so it was so windy. It was 20-mile-an-hour winds, but the water was still 74 degrees. And so my kids, honestly, it's the first time they've actually put their feet in the Atlantic Ocean in New Jersey. And shame on me for that, but life takes over. And it takes a funeral to get everyone back together. And while it was hard, it was very special, and it'll be a very special memory for me, and seeing my family and my mom and her brothers and sisters. And so, but there's my kids eating ice cream. Does anybody know what Jimmies are? Yeah. Okay. Apparently that is a derogatory statement in some states, but they are sprinkles that go on your ice cream. And so I actually took a picture of it. Yes. They're rainbow and chocolate Jimmies. That's what they're called in Jersey. And I have a picture of it to prove it. But so they got to enjoy their ice cream too. So that was last weekend. Not the best situation, but we certainly made the best of it. Some great memories. So I want to turn over to Doug.
I had no idea what Jimmys were. Anybody else in the same boat as me?
Yeah. No, I did not.
All right.
With the normal.
I am going to stand up here. Give me 1 second. Whoops. Okay. So the only thing I have left before we get into this is the coffee machines. Yeah. So the coffee machine in Matthew Hall or Kelly's Cafe has been changed, and we got, when I asked the resident council yesterday, I think we got, it's a positive thing, the new coffee machine. The one that they originally swapped out to compared to the older one turned out to be a not so good decision on our part. And honestly, the company, I think, was a little glad and relieved to get it off of their list of things to do or contracts. We were the only one that they had, which surprises me because y'all have heard of Compass or Morrison's Cafeteria. They're an enormous organization. Well, that's who we partnered with, thinking that they're going to knock it out of the park. But we were their only coffee machine. So we exited that contract. They let us out of it gladly. And then we also partnered with a different one. So we're in the process of swapping out some of the other buildings. So if yours hasn't been swapped out, it will be. But that's the new coffee machine. So I think it's going to be a little bit better than what we had before. So I'll pause before we get to the satellite campus. Is there any questions so far about what we've talked about? Not a thing? Okay. Well, that makes it easy then. All right, we'll go straight into the satellite campus. So y'all have heard us talk in the past about, kind of my job. I think you heard this before. My job as CEO is to not only try to provide the best service we can to you all, exceptional service, meaning either we meet or exceed your expectations. Our goal is to also ensure that we set up Village on the Isle along with the board to make sure that we'll be here for another 40 years. So if we go back and look at 42, 43 years ago, the board really had a vision that say, let's get together. Let's put a life plan community at Village on the Isle. We'll call it Village on the Isle between the two churches, and look where we are today. So I will tell you from a financial strength standpoint, we are in great shape. So please don't think that some of the things that we're doing is because we have to. We do this because we want to survive another 30, 40, 50 years. And this is what we have to do in order to do that. So if you look at the past, how many apartments did we start out with in independent living? Well, that's what we are now. Okay. So if you, I don't know the exact number, but if you look at the exact number of what we started with Matthew, Trinity, and everything else, we've shrunk those apartments over time. And the reason, no, we've expanded them over time, but the number of apartments have shrunk over time. Because it used to be mostly either one bedroom or studios, and people just don't want one bedrooms or studios. They want something a little bit bigger, one bedrooms or bigger. So we've combined those over the years, and we've reduced those, or that economy of scale, because we've reduced the number of apartments that we've got on campus. Now, I'm only talking about independent living so far. So when we talk about, the need for the satellite, not satellite campus, but this campus expansion that we're at now, this helps us bring kind of the economies of scale back to what it really should be here on campus. So when we were looking at ways to continue to grow to make sure that Village on the Isle is around for another 40 or 50 years, well after all of us are no longer a part of Village on the Isle, we were looking at what can we do on campus, and let's look at satellite campuses at the same time. We didn't know which direction we were going to go at the time. We said, let's explore all opportunities. Let's not leave a stone unturned. So while we decided on this campus plan that we have now with our current 54 more additional apartments, we never really stopped looking for land because we knew that was a really good opportunity. And you'll see why here in a minute when we talk about kind of this area and what we've got. So that's where we kind of started. We were approached by a seller who actually was in the process of looking for a buyer for this particular piece of property. And as you heard me mention before, it's 50 acres, and it was the hospital here in Venice Regional Hospital. That's the 50 acres that they were looking at building right off the island to replace or build another hospital here in Venice. So clearly that didn't come to fruition. It ended up turning around and getting sold to somebody else, and then this is the opportunity that we were presented. So I know not everybody can read this in the back. If you can, you have really good vision. But I'll kind of read it a little bit. As Bev said, we're currently 99% occupied and reserved. So we're eventually sold out. And one of the things that we hear a lot is, what about the housing market? You keep hearing on the news, the housing market's down. Yeah, it is down a little bit. But one of the things that we all think about too, think about the people who have been here for quite a while. They've owned their homes for quite a while. I bought in 2016 our home that we live in now. We bought it for this price. Well, at the peak it was up to here because the market skyrocketed with home values. And even though we're not up to here now, we're still about here. But compared to when people first bought in, that's still a significant increase that people would love to have that increase in value of their home. So, you know, that's one of the things that we talk about. Yeah, is it down a little bit? Yeah, but you know what? Homes are still selling in this area. It might take a little longer, but people are still selling their homes. And when you look at the demand of, we have about 180 individuals on our wait list. We are 99% occupied and reserved. People still need to live in Village on the Isle or want to live in Village on the Isle. So I say this, I'm not getting any younger, nobody else is getting any younger. So there still is a demand for Village on the Isle. And while the market is competitive, I'm talking about the third bullet point here, there's really not much competition for life plan communities like us here in Venice. You've got Jacaranda Trace, which they do not have a skilled nursing facility, at least not at this time. And then there's some rental communities that pop up, but you know, our primary area, all those different communities that have popped up, they're averaging about 90%, which is really good for communities like us. And then when we look at the last bullet point, we talk about what it takes for us to be successful. There is a huge, huge market just in our area. So if you look at our surrounding zip codes, that's where the majority of our residents come from here to Village on the Isle. This satellite campus, even though we'll expand kind of that primary market area, when you look at the number of apartments that we're going to be building, which we'll talk about that here in a minute too, we need less than 3% of all individuals or couples that are eligible to move into a community like us. We need less than 3% of that total for this to be successful. Now I'll tell you, in terms of evaluating what that market looks like, if you have 10% or less, that's considered a very, very deep market. So that's when people see that and say, you know what, it's not, we don't have enough communities to meet the demand for people who are looking for this. So we look at that, others look at that, and I say this, you know, all because of you here. We are the market leader in our area, and for us to maintain that market leadership and to be the best at what we do, we continue to have to evolve ourselves over time, and this is one of the things that we'll do to evolve. Okay. So we talk about, okay, what does it look like for the future of Sarasota? This is a great picture, a graph. And it obviously starts at 2020, but when you look at the number of households of individuals that are 75 years or older, look at the increase. I mean, it's growing exponentially. I joked a little bit with the resident council yesterday, and I don't know about you all, but when I drive during the season, I want to rip my hair out because there are so many people on that road. So people are moving here left and right. And when you look at 2025 and the increases for the next 20 years, I mean, that's astronomical. All right, so this is the aging population from today to 2030, and this is just for Sarasota County. So when you look at the county numbers, or breakdown by county, and this is from the Florida Chamber, by the way, we were presented this back in March up in Tallahassee. Sarasota is number 6 on that list of counties that have that older population that's continuing to grow and age. So we are in the top 6 in terms of the raw growth of just people who would qualify to come here. Now this dot density map, it's a little confusing when you look at that, isn't it? It looks like somebody hit it with a shotgun. But that yellow star is Village on the Isle, and you really can't see, there's a little blue star up there just to the little bit above and to the right. Yeah, we'll have there's another little picture, but that's where the satellite campus is that we're referring to. So when you look at the households that are 75 or older with incomes that would qualify to come to Village on the Isle, there are a little over 12,000 eligible households that would be eligible to move into either a Village on the Isle or a satellite campus like that. So the growth is really there. Each one of those dots you typically would see represent one household. There are so many eligible households in this market Each one of these dots represents 3 households. So when you look at the island, we're smack dab in the middle of that. That's where most of it is. You can see kind of where that's broken out a little bit. So it's a very, very, really good area for a satellite campus. All right, so the project, this is kind of the scope of what we are hoping to accomplish over there. We're looking at doing 180 apartments, total for phase 1. Phase 2 would include another probably 215 or so. And I say that approximately because we're still kind of redefining and looking at that site plan. So we're looking at about 180 total. That would be in phase 1. Total build out after phase 2 would be completely built is probably around 400 or maybe 380, right around that. So you can see the size of that campus is pretty significant. The public space and the common areas are going to be similar to what we're trying to accomplish here. So a lot of those same amenities of what we have here is what we're trying to accomplish over there. One advantage over there is the outdoor space. So we are on about 17 acres or 16 acres of land here. That's 50 acres. So you can imagine how much outdoor space that we can really take advantage of. And the things that everybody is looking for in a community like us is mind and body fitness. Those are the 2 most important things. And we want to make sure we exercise, stay healthy, as well as from a mind exercise, we want to continue to do those things as well. So the outdoor space, we really want to bring all the outdoor spaces and take advantage of that with walking trails, dog parks, those types of things. So we really want to bring and take advantage of those outdoor spaces. So this is a map. I didn't have this in here yesterday with the resident council, but it was suggested that I add this, which I thought was a wonderful suggestion. But you can see the yellow star on the bottom left. The airport sticks out like a sore thumb, so you can see where we are now. That line that you see right above the star where the satellite campus is, that's Venice Avenue. So does everybody know where the roundabout is on Jacaranda Boulevard? So if you are on Venice Avenue heading east or north, whatever direction that is, I get confused. But if you keep on heading away from downtown Venice and keep going to the right, you reach that roundabout, go straight as if that roundabout didn't exist. So if you go straight, right there on the right, there's a little tiny assisted living facility. It's adjacent to that assisted living facility. If you have reached the Loveland Center, you've gone too far. So that gives you an idea. So if you look at the total distance, I think it's about maybe 5 or 6 miles away. And that's by taking streets. By the Crow's Nest, it's like 4 miles away. So that's how far it is in proximity from here. So it truly is considered a satellite campus. We'll talk about some of the contracts and things like that, benefits of the satellite campus. So as part of our due diligence, one of the things that we have to do is create a site plan because the county, this is not within the city limits, it's within the county limits. And one of the things they want to look at is it's already zoned for a specific use now. And the county says, well, we need to know what it's going to look like with you guys because we need to know what approvals that need to be done in order to accomplish what you all want to be or what you all want to accomplish. So what we said, okay, we took the existing site plan. We really kind of those footprints of the bigger buildings. We tried to match up what it would look like and still accomplish what we want to do. And there's 2 things that the county looks at. When they say, okay, if it's a major change compared to what is already approved, yes, we're not saying, no, you can't do that. We'll likely approve it, but it's considered a major modification compared to what's already existing. If we have it similar to what's already approved by the county, it's considered a minimum modification to that site plan. This is considered a minimum modification. Now, it actually hasn't been fully approved by the county yet, but we did approach the county and said, okay, this is the site plan that we're roughly looking at. Can you tell us how you would consider this and how it would be approved? And they said, yeah, we're looking at this and we would consider this a minimum modification. So part 1 is 180, part 2 is about 212. Total build out will be probably about 400, a little bit less than that. That red line that you see kind of dividing that campus in half, It isn't utilities, that's actually the division of phase 1 versus phase 2. So everything on the left side, that's all part of phase 1, and that's what would be included in phase 1. Everything that you see on the right side is considered phase 2, and that would be built, several years after phase 1. That little red square, and I told the council yesterday, I called that crimson. I chose crimson for a reason. Just wanted you to know that, Michael. So anyway, so that is a flexible option for us. If we want to add assisted living and memory care, we can add assisted living and memory care down the road. If we want it to be independent living, we can make it independent living. It really is up to us. The footprint is there, but it's up to us of what we want to do. And I think we'll make that judgment call a little bit later down the road. And one of the things that was a big topic of discussion when we looked at this particular expansion plan on our existing campus is, one of the concerns was, do we have enough room in our skilled nursing and do we have enough room in our assisted living facility and memory care? The answer is yes, and I didn't hesitate when I said that. Because right now, if we've got 234, you all know that we've got 64 assisted living memory care and 64 skilled nursing beds. When you look at the total number of independent living apartments that we have now is 234, you really only need about 10% in both of those areas to meet the need of our residents now. So that really would be about 23 or 24 assisted living and memory care combined, as well as skilled nursing beds, and that's each. We have 64, so obviously there's a lot more excess capabilities than what we truly need for the number of independent living apartments. And the reason we say that is, I'm not asking, so please don't, if you've had a hip replacement, don't raise your hand, I'm not asking that question. But hip replacements or knee replacements, when I was an administrator several years ago, we used to get knee replacements for short-term rehab all the time. They used to come for 30, 45 days for rehab and go home. If you had a hip replacement, it was a massive surgery. Not that any surgery is not massive, but the same thing. You would come to a skilled nursing facility and going home wasn't even an option for you at the time. In today's world, they can put a total knee in you and send you home that afternoon. They can minimally invasively put a brand new hip in you and send you home that day as well, with nursing care and rehab in your apartment. Even spine surgeries, they're doing minimally invasive and doing 1 or 2 level lumbar fusions and sending you home that same day. So technology compared to what it was many years ago is radically different. What's it going to be? Now the demand is 10% of kind of that number. What's it going to be 5 years from now? What's it going to be 10 years from now? I can tell you there's going to be more complex surgeries. They're going to find better ways to do it, and they're going to send you home. So if you ask me, Kathy, or anybody, really the truly demand is going to be in home health with nursing and rehab in your home. It's not going to be skilled nursing, and that's why you see skilled nursing. There's a lot of people that are either reducing the number of skilled nursing beds that they've got or doing away with skilled nursing altogether and just doing assisted living. We don't want to do away with that. That's not an option for us. We built skilled nursing when people were shrinking their skilled nursing. For us, when we, let's expand and add more independent living apartments, we are right-sizing the proper independent living number of apartments compared to skilled nursing or assisted living number of beds that we currently have. So we have full capability of taking care of even another 200 individuals with our existing healthcare operations. So, any questions on that before I move on? Yes, ma'am.
What's the elevation?
Well, right now it's smack dab right in between 2 C's, so there's a little canal, and I think it's called Blackburn Canal, Blackburn something canal. So right now it's in a B, but when we build this, we're going to build it higher to at least a C elevation. So one of the things that we will look at here too is that could potentially be, that's the little canal right there. That could be a potential evacuation zone as well. So when we're looking at common areas, I know we're at D here. We're really high on the island, and this is unheard of. But there may be a time where they say everybody on the island needs to go. This is an option for us to evacuate. And when we talk about the Life Enrichment Center up around, Ocala, that whole area, during a storm, we know it's not realistic to ask everybody to get in a van or a bus or drive yourself, because who knows how long it would take to get there. So that's one of the things that we are doing here. Those common areas, we're hardening, we're putting electrical power like we are here, full power, full AC, everything, that we can at least use that as an evacuation center for Village on the Isle as well. All right, timelines. So we didn't really talk about timelines before. The PCOA, we love acronyms. Kathy will tell you this is an industry that loves acronyms. PCO means preliminary care, or excuse me, certificate of authority. So that basically is the application that we have to send to the Office of Insurance Regulation. You'll hear me refer to that as the OIR. And the OIR has to give approval to us before we can just go expand. And you know, it's tedious. It's not fun to have to go seek that approval. But at the end of the day, we appreciate that. And I'll tell you why. Because if an organization comes in and if they are 20 or 30% occupied, and if they go say, hey, I'm going to build another community and it's going to be 50 miles down the road, well, if you can't fill the building that you've got, why are you trying to build another building? So it's those safeguards and safe measures that the government or the state of Florida puts in place to say you have to meet certain criteria for us to give you authority to continue to grow. So that's another safeguard that we've got in place. That actually was submitted in August, so that's in line. Hopefully we'll get approved. We talk about BANs, which is bond anticipation notes. So that is basically a bond issue. It's considered a short-term loan through bonds, where we expect to close in December of 2025, as long as we get approval from the OIR. That's all the money that will fund all of our pre-construction work, the marketing of all of everything, pre-sales, you name it, that helps fund everything. So it funds everything until we say we're 100% ready to put a shovel in the ground, let's go out for long-term financing. Commencement of the priority program, which you all remember, that's kind of how we did it here through the priority program first, and then we went into conversions. We expect that to start in January of 2026, so it's not too far away where we would start the priority program. So Steve in marketing, I don't know if you've met Steve or seen Steve. We actually hired him in anticipation of him being in charge of this satellite campus. So that's where we have Steve kind of earmarked for that as well. We expect to be successful in the priority program and start pre-sales, so meaning that conversion in June of next year of 2026. We close on long-term financing, which is also the start of construction in December of 2027. So that's how long we expect kind of those conversions and pre-sales to take place. First occupancy in 2029 and achieve stable occupancy, which is considered 95% or higher, in July of 2032. So it's out. You know, we've got that timeline. This is the timeline that we have for the particular project. But you know, actually we'll go on to the next slide. Any questions on the timeline for this? Okay. So key takeaways, the risks and benefits, those types of things. So I want everybody to hear me when I say this. This is not being done under Village on the Isle or Southwest Florida Retirement Center. Obviously, Southwest Florida Retirement Center is our legal name. Village on the Isle is who we do business as. We started another complete separate entity because we wanted to make sure that your investment in Village on the Isle is safe. So I want everybody to understand that. So we are planning on having another not-for-profit organization. We talk about, you know, it being a separate entity from Village on the Isle. The only risk for Village on the Isle is just the money that it's going to take for us, when it's all said and done, is to figure out if this is still a good idea or not. So let's say something catastrophic happens when we said, okay, you know, this isn't going to happen. We took out this big bond anticipation note, and it's significant. It's about what we're expecting, about $37 million. So we take out this bond anticipation note, and then all of a sudden something happens where things just go crazy, not in a good crazy, but in a bad crazy. We could essentially walk away from this project. The only money that Village on the Isle would have at risk is the money that we had put in there just to make sure it was a good project. and then there is no recourse at all from the bondholders from Village on the Isle. So I want to make sure everybody understands that as well. The collateral is nothing over here on this campus, it's that piece of land. So the bondholders would get that piece of land, we turn it over to them, and then they would figure out what to do. Now, we don't want that. We don't think that's going to happen. We think it's going to be successful. If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing this to begin with. So we talked about that, not obligated for future debt, just initial investment in the project. And then we talk about kind of the increase of economies of scale. So when we talk about the increase of economies of scale and the benefits of all that, and I have a couple notes in here to make sure I don't forget anything in here. But you know, it does help offset the future healthcare demand and delivery. And what I mean by that is, you heard James talking about our census. And right now, this is a very slow time for people to have surgeries, those types of things. And there's not many people down here. So our census in the health center is lower. Our census in assisted living is lower. We don't want to have to go out and find somebody in the community to bring them in. We don't want to have to go in and fight, I don't want to say fight, but try to get somebody from the community to come to us for short-term rehab instead of a Manor Care or another skilled nursing facility around us. We want to be able to provide and use our existing inventory for our residents only. We don't want to have to worry about anything. So that's another benefit that we don't have to do. Right now, any empty beds, we try to fill from the outside to help bring in that additional revenue, to help spread out some of those costs among everybody. Shared services, obviously from an administrative standpoint, that's something that Kathy and I would have to share our time with. So one of the risks, and I told the council yesterday too, maybe it's a good thing that you might see a little bit less of us. We're still going to be here. But you know, that might be something that you might see just a little bit less of us, just because we have to have a little bit of time over there too. But we will put things in place to make sure nothing falls through the cracks here. And that's really about the only risk that is involved with this with this project at all. We talk about some of our challenges here are increased wages, insurance, contract negotiations, recruitment and retention. So when we talk about some of those challenges as an organization, if we are able to grow those economies of scale, we're able to pay our staff a higher wage than what we could if we're smaller. So that's one of the things. In a retention strategy, those types of things. You know, I'm going to use, I'll use James. He's the youngest out of the entire group. You know, Holly, everybody on the leadership team or executive team, Karen, Kathy, everybody. If we continue to grow and become kind of that multi-site or have that satellite campus as well, then there's growth opportunities for them as well. So, you know, keeping people here, retaining good people, that's been a challenge. It's not really a challenge. Obviously, you've seen our turnover ratio, but that's something that we constantly look at as well. You know, we've even talked about, if we're able to, what about creating a home health agency that now all of a sudden we have our Medicare license. So if you go to the skilled nursing or go to the hospital and you need home health with nursing services and rehab, those types of things, why not at V Village on the Isle? If we're able to do that, we are so proud of the healthcare as well as assisted living, that team. Rehab is incredible. Why not continue that success and maintain that if we're able to do that? Because if you receive nursing services in your apartment, our rehab department can't provide rehab unless they've gotten a contract with that home health agency that's providing the nursing services. Agency staff, those types of things. We do rely on agency staff a little bit to fill in the need when we can't find employees for certain positions. We could even, I'm thinking pie in the sky and those types of things. Why couldn't we create our own temporary staffing agency where we can have our own set of employees that just go back and forth between the two organizations? So it really provides that strength, more financial strength than what we currently have, and it just ensures that we are around for another 40 to 50 years. So, Kathy, did I miss anything on this? Okay. What questions do you have on the satellite campus? And now I see the hands starting to raise, so.
What pays for shared services?
What do you mean shared services?
Well, if you're going to play 10 hours over there and 3 hours here, Who's paying for that 10 hours? It's not here.
I got you. So you want to answer this?
Yeah. So part of, our provisional certificate of authority with the Office of Insurance is talking about how we manage both communities operationally. And so when we talk about shared services, there's a shared services and administrative agreement. So basically, the satellite campus has to pay administrative and management services agreement. So we basically have in the feasibility model a 3% fee. And so it's based on their revenues of the services that we provide on their behalf. And so again, those are funds that come back to voting, or in a way, when we figure out what our corporate structure is going to look like, that's how we get the benefit of those shared services. So they're going to be paying a fee. I don't want to say to Village on the Isle, but in a sense, we'll be paying a fee to help cover the administrative costs of Village on the Isle. The other shared service cost is healthcare. And so because we will be providing healthcare to those residents back on this campus, there will be a healthcare agreement that basically states the sanctuary will bill those residents for healthcare, and then Village on the Isle will bill the sanctuary for those services. And so there will be full transparency about the utilization here and how that gets paid. And so there's no underwriting, there's no subsidy. It's based on their contract, and Vody gets paid the full rate.
What's the sanctuary?
Oh, the sanctuary at Village on the Isle is the satellite campus. And so we're calling it Savodi. I don't know how that happened. It's not official. That's kind of what we had initially in the plans and the documentation as the disregarded entity. That's what's actually filed with the state of Florida. But it's starting to stick. And so we're trying to figure out how we're going to manage through that. We realize it should be the sanctuary by Village on the Isle and not at. That was a little slip there, but that's what, when we hear us talk about the sanctuary, that's the satellite campus.
If we're going to have a new nonprofit organization, will that be under the umbrella of the ELCA as this one is?
So it is the affiliation is still there. So we do have the faith-based not-for-profit affiliation with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America.
Doug, have you given any thought to the process and ability for those of us who might want to go there and are currently living here? Seriously.
Karen.
Jerry, we'll pack you up when you're ready to go.
Can you not give the microphone back to he or Gail? No, I mean, honestly, this is a different product. So we're going to treat it exactly like our current expansion. And if you want to go to that particular satellite campus, then there would be the same buy-in as if you were a brand new resident. We haven't really talked about that, but that's how we handle this particular campus expansion. Because the feasibility study for this project to be successful relies on those entrance fees. So we've got to have those entrance fees as part of that initial startup.
Yeah, Doug, are there any other retirement communities in the area, Jacaranda Trace, for example, that are doing the same thing, that are expanding off campus?
Not off campus that I'm aware of. Now, unless something's being talked about internally, I know Jacaranda Trace is working on a project called the Overlook. That's an existing campus that they're looking at adding additional apartments to, or a high-rise, similar to what we're doing over here, but not that I'm aware of off campus anywhere. The closest one that I know of who is building is Erickson Senior Living. They're up in Lakewood Ranch a little bit, which is a little further away than obviously what we are here. That's the only one that I'm aware of.
In that same vein, there's an assisted living service right one property away from us. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, there's no, right next to this project, there is, it's a Village Green, I couldn't remember the name of it. I think that's a smaller assisted living. It's been there a long time. I don't really know much about that particular assisted living facility, other than it's very small. It might be family owned, and a little bit older than what you would typically see with some of the assisted living facilities around here. So I don't know a whole lot about it. Rob, I don't know if you've ever been there as a pastor seeing anybody.
No.
Okay. So other than that, I don't know. Well, yeah. So we won't really be affiliated with them. Obviously, that'd be a completely separate organization, and yeah. All right, any other questions?
What about staffing? Is that going to be a problem?
About what?
Staffing?
Oh, staffing. Well, yeah, I'm going to be a workers' comp claim for you.
Actually, Doug, I can speak.
Yeah,
Doug.
I'm not covered under workers' comp. Staffing's always a challenge, but I'll tell you, as any organization continues to grow, we just got to find creative ways to fill staffing. I mean, we're trying to do everything we can here. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit too, but one of the good things about that, healthcare and culinary, we know culinary drives quite a bit of staffing numbers up, but healthcare is probably the biggest demand in terms of the number of staff that we need to run the business. We're not going to have that over there. Yeah, so we think initially there might be 30 total about what we need for staff to make sure we get things going right, but we will just come up with creative ways of what we can do.
So I'll just add to that. Just geographically, that location is easier to recruit for. So it is one of our biggest challenges. As much as this is a fabulous facility, it's on the island, and staff. If you're a frontline staff member, depending on wages and things and traffic, as we all know, is very, very difficult whether you're coming from the north or south. That's a deterrent for us. So when you're dealing with culinary and ancillary and those type of coming right off that highway and coming right down Jacaranda, or our folks, the majority of the people we recruit are south. So they jump on 75 or they come up by Welland Park. It depends, but they probably jump on 75 and it's 5 minutes off of I-75. So my perspective as it sits today, not knowing what the market's going to be then, it should be easier to fill out there. Now again, what does that mean for folks here? It'll be interesting. I think we'll have some shared resources going on, but we'll just, like Kathy said, it's only about what, 30 people? So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, I just had a couple things to confirm through the presentation. I thought I saw that it was indicated that the new will be nonprofit. Is that correct? Okay. And then secondly, on the graphic that actually showed how you were lining it out or positioning around the. Well, no, not necessarily. I'm just curious. Are those? Because they're so tiny. Do they represent individual residents or cottages, or how would you describe it?
And I can pull that back up. I just didn't want to trip over this cord and to look foolish doing it, so that's why I disconnected. But if you want me to pull it up, let me know and I can. Okay, so the little house-looking things, it's going to consist of, you all know kind of the bigger buildings will be the Emerald Terrace style buildings. The small ones will either be cottages or duplexes. So it'll be a combination of both. Yeah, 50 is what we've kind of earmarked a little bit. I can tell you that number's fluctuating a little bit when we talk about phase 1 versus phase 2, logistically what that looks like. We might add a little more cottages into that or take a little more cottages out of that. It just kind of depends on what that looks like. So.
Are you going to have any high-rise buildings?
She asked if there was going to have any high-rise buildings. It'll be just like our Emerald Terrace style now with one additional floor to it. So it'll be 1 story higher, but pretty much the same type building and look of what you typically see now. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a neighborhood figure for the initial investment and how that's going to impact all of the residents here?
Perfect.
So, absolutely, great question. So in the modeling, Village on the Isle is investment, regardless, we have a $2 million equity contribution to the project itself. So during this initial phase, it's expected to be about 1.2 million before we go to a bond anticipation note issue. That's going to come back to voting in the form of a line of credit. And so we're going to take a subordinate note on this land as we go through the pre-construction phase, which basically, for you all, we're going to earn interest on the funds that we're investing into this property initially. But when we go to a long-term placement, it's Village on the Isle's sponsorship equity piece is about a $2 million charge. So we talk about that a lot. What does that mean for us? And that $2 million, what is the opportunity cost of that to Voti? And everything that we've put through so far, $2 million seemed like a very nominal amount for us to invest in our future.
I think this is something that, we look back 30 years from now, And I think our residents and I think our future board will say, you know what, the board really did it right when they looked at building a campus out there or investing in land. Because I tell you, land's not getting any cheaper. When if y'all have driven down East Venice Avenue to River Road yet, holy cow, right? When you get down to River Road, they're gonna make that 4-lane. They're already cleared the land. For those of you who have not been down there at that intersection, they've cleared the land. What are they building down there? A Home Depot and Walmart, whatever else? So Publix, they're expanding like crazy. So I tell you, that land is not gonna get any cheaper than what you see. And I think it's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Also, Frank has agreed he's gonna stay here at least another 15 to 20 years on this campus. We already have a bed saved for him in our health center. All right, any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all very much. Next town hall will be in November, just because things are crazy around December timeframe. So the next town hall will be in November. So thank you all. And Michael, thank you for coming.